Vasco, the only way to get spices from China and India was to travel in a caravan on a land route called the Silk Road. We know much about this because a young explorer named Marco Polo wrote all about his adventures traveling with his father on the Silk Road to China. The Muslims took over Constantinople and blocked off the access to the Silk Road in 1453.
Istanbul was Constantinople, now it's Istanbul, not Constantinople.
Now the only way to get to Asia was by sea. There was one tiny problem. No one knew how far south the continent of Africa stretched. There were also stories of the sea being full of poisonous air and water so hot that ships caught fire. The Prince of Portugal, Henry the Navigator, had his doubts and sent expeditions to explore. He had special ships built called caravels that had 3 triangular sails instead of 2 square ones. These ships were smaller, faster, and could turn into the wind. Bartholomew Diaz was sent on an expedition to map as much of the African coastline as possible. He made it around the southern tip of Africa, which he named the Cape of Storms. As they started to sail north, up the eastern coast, his sailors mutinied and made him turn around to go home. Diaz placed a marker at Herdsman's Bay to mark the spot before he left.
No, not like that.
When he returned home, the king changed the name of the Cape of Storms to the Cape of Good Hope, which we still call it today. Another explorer named Christopher Columbus was not interested in sailing all the way around Africa to get to Asia. He said that the world was round, and he could just take a shortcut by going west to get there. He had read Marco Polo's book and wanted to go to Japan, which was said to be full of gold, palaces, and riches. He went to Spain and got 3 ships from Queen Isabella, the Nina, the Pinta, and the Santa Maria.
In 1492, Columbus sailed the ocean blue.
He began on August 3rd and sailed for months before landing in the Bahamas. He called the natives Indians because he thought he had come to the Indies. He set up a colony which he called Hispaniola, which is now divided into Haiti and the Dominican Republic. Columbus was not exactly nice to the natives that he encountered. He forced them to look for gold and would kill them if they did not bring him enough. He took 3 more voyages to the new land. His last voyage took him to South America. He had never seen such a land. He thought that it was the Garden of Eden. Columbus died in his bed, still believing that he had sailed to China. A man named Vasco da Gama knew of Columbus's success and felt that he could do better. He felt that going around Africa was a better way. He set sail in 1497 to sail around Africa to India. He decided to avoid the coastline so that he wouldn't sink any ships in the storms. He landed at Herdsman's Bay and was met by some Africans. They seemed nice, but he overstayed his welcome, and as he left, he saw the natives tearing down the marker that Bartholomew Diaz had left. He found a pilot to take him across the Indian Ocean to Calicut. When they got there, they were chased off because they did not bring good enough gifts for the king. He returned to Portugal with only 2 ships and 54 of his original 170 men, but he had succeeded in being the first European to sail all around Africa to get to Asia.
This is Channel 3 News. I'm Everett. We have a breaking story. Live now to Jacob.
Thanks, Everett. I'm here next to the ocean with famous explorer Pedro Alvarez Cabral. Cabral, can you tell us what happened? Well, you see, I was trying to go to India around Africa, and my good friend Vasco de Gama told me to swing out far west to avoid the storms along the coastline. But seems like I may have been blown off course or sailed a little too far west because I hit a new island. We stayed there for a while, about 10 days at the most, but we did sail on to India after a while. On the way back, we lost quite a few ships, including the one that Bartholomew Diaz was on. It was a pretty bad loss, but we kept going and returned to Portugal with 5 of our ships full of gold, spices, and goods. Well, there you have it. Back to you, Everett.
Thank you, Jacob. This has been Channel 3 News. Good night.
John Cabot felt that Columbus and de Gama were taking routes that were too long. He moved to England to get funding for his voyage. He chose England because it was at the northernmost end of the trade route. The English had to pay the most for spices and silk because of this. If he could find a shorter route from England, he could lower their prices.
Oh, I need to lower prices.
Cabot thought that Columbus sailed too far south, but if he sailed from England, he could just sail west to China. King Henry II agreed and promised him 5 ships, but when he left, he only had 1 ship called the Matthew. He sailed west and discovered Newfoundland.
Canada, eh?
He made sure to tell the king that the land he discovered was wonderful and left out any bad parts such as heavy fog, mosquitoes, or icebergs. Since he was sent by England, he is much of the reason that we speak English today and not Portuguese or Spanish. He took a second voyage and was never heard from again. In 1499, an explorer named Amerigo Vespucci wanted to see the land that Columbus had described. He sailed to South America. He also wanted to find a South Pole star, much like the North Star, that could be used for navigation. He never found it. Vespucci realized that the lands he was exploring were not actually China or any part of Asia, but these were completely new continents. A German map maker named Martin Waldseemüller later labeled this land America for Amerigo.
Welcome back to Channel 3 News. I'm Everett. We go live now to Ryan.
I'm Ryan, here in Florida with famous explorer Juan Ponce de Leon. Sir, can you tell us what happened? Well, I was on a quest to find the Fountain of Youth. I thought I found a new island, but it wasn't. I named it Florida, which means full of flowers. I sailed on and became the first European to land on the Yucatan Peninsula in Mexico. I'm back here in Florida because I want to set up a colony.
Here's Ryan with an update.
Unfortunately, Juan Ponce de Leon was attacked in Florida and died in Hispaniola from the wounds that the natives had inflicted.
Well, there you have it. Good night.
Even better than that is who edits the credits. I bet I'll never forget it, cause once I read it, then I read it. I go to the theater about 90 minutes late. Skip the whole dang movie, cause the credits are great. Now if you're gonna be featured on a movie song, the credits is the part that you wanna be on. Yeah, I like to watch the credits.
There's a chicken.
That's Rusty.
Don't be mean. Jake. Go ahead.
Ow.
Jake, I need stuff all over your face. What are you looking at?
Boxcar. Boxcar.
Meow. Ryan, go! Run! Be scared! Go! Go, 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 go! Chase him with the thing!
Unfortunately, Ponce de Leon was killed and was attacked in his bed.
Yeah. There's a chicken in the background.
Muffins! Canada, eh?